What if I told you that the answer to overcoming life's greatest obstacles rests not in changing the world around you, but in mastering the world within you? Imagine a life where fear, anger, and worry no longer govern you, where every hurdle becomes an opportunity, and every setback a stepping stone. This is not a fantasy. This is the force of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has directed monarchs, soldiers, and philosophers for ages. But here's the actual question. Are you ready to take charge of your mind, to transform your troubles into strength, and to live with unshakable serenity in the craziness of life? If so, join me as we explore how to practice Stoicism in daily life and learn the tools to become the hero of your own story. This is not just philosophy. This is a call to arms. Let's begin. Cultivating the Inner Observer. Our journey into Stoicism begins with a fundamental and transforming practice: cultivating the inner observer. This is not only an exercise in self-reflection, it is the cornerstone of our entire Stoic practice. The inner observer is the silent, ever-vigilant watcher within us, the part of ourselves that stays unaffected by the chaos of the exterior world. It is the calm eye of the storm, the steady hand that guides us through the whirlwind of life. To nurture this observer is to awaken to a higher level of consciousness, one that allows us to see ourselves and the world with clarity and detachment. Imagine for a time that your mind is a huge open sky. Thoughts and emotions are like clouds moving through, sometimes light and transient, other times dark and stormy. The inner observer is the sky itself, unchanging and unmoved by what drifts across it. It does not cling to the clouds, nor does it push them away. It simply watches with quiet curiosity and unwavering presence. This is the essence of Stoic mindfulness: to step back from the turbulence of our inner world and witness it without judgment or attachment. We are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. These are transient phenomena, rising and falling like waves in the ocean. The inner observer reminds us of this truth. It allows us to see that we are something far greater than the fleeting storms of the mind. We are the conscious awareness behind it all, the steady captain steering the ship through stormy seas. This realization is liberating. It frees us from the tyranny of our own minds and empowers us to take control of our lives. To nurture the inner observer, we must practice stepping back from our thoughts and emotions throughout the day. This is not a passive act. It demands intention and discipline. We halt in the midst of our busy lives, close our eyes, and take a deep breath. In that time, we retreat into our inner citadel, a mental fortress of calm and clarity. Here we notice the ebb and flow of our thoughts and emotions. We ask ourselves, are these thoughts aligned with virtue? Are these emotions serving a purpose, or are they mastering me? This is the practice of self-awareness, the cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously remarked, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This begins with self-awareness. We cannot change what we do not see. By cultivating the inner observer, we shine a light on the secret corners of our thoughts, illuminating the patterns and habits that create our lives. We become cognizant of our impulses, our reactions, and our desires. We observe how often we are motivated by fear, anger, or greed, and we begin to wonder if these forces genuinely help us. But the inner observer does more than disclose our defects. It also shows us our potential. It reminds us of the virtues we aspire to: courage, knowledge, justice, and temperance. It urges us to match our ideas and actions with these higher values. When we feel rage mounting, the inner observer whispers, "Is this anger just? Is it wise?" When we are lured by want, it asks, "Is this desire in harmony with my true nature?" In this way, the inner observer becomes our guide, helping us traverse the difficulties of life with grace and integrity. Cultivating the inner observer is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong practice. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But the advantages are tremendous. As we deepen our self-awareness, we gain greater control over our minds and emotions. We become less reactive and more purposeful in our activities. We learn to respond to life's obstacles with calm and clarity, rather than getting carried away by the storms of emotion. In the calm of the inner observer, we feel a tremendous sense of tranquility. We realize that we are not at the mercy of the external world. We are the masters of our own minds. This is the essence of Stoic freedom, the freedom that comes from within, the freedom that no external force can ever take away. It is a freedom that allows us to face life's challenges with courage, to embrace adversity with resilience, and to live with purpose and integrity, acting in accordance with nature. At the heart of Stoicism lies a profound and timeless principle: to live in accordance with nature. This is not a call to return to a primitive state or to reject the advancements of civilization. Rather, it is an invitation to align ourselves with the deeper eternal laws that govern the cosmos, the laws of reason, virtue, and harmony. To live in accordance with nature is to recognize that we are not separate from the universe, but integral parts of its grand design. We are fragments of the divine, sparks of the eternal flame that animates all of existence. In this realization, we find our purpose and our power. The Stoics believed that the universe is governed by a rational principle, which they called the logos. This is the underlying order that permeates all things, the thread that weaves the fabric of reality. To live in accordance with nature is to align ourselves with this logos, to act in harmony with the natural order of things. It is to recognize that we are not isolated individuals, but interconnected beings, each playing a role in the greater whole. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, what is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee. Our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole. But what does it mean in practical terms to live in accordance with nature? It begins with understanding our own nature as rational beings. Unlike other creatures, we are endowed with the gift of reason, the ability to reflect, to choose, and to act with intention. This is our highest faculty, the spark of the divine within us. To live in accordance with nature is to cultivate this reason, to use it to guide our thoughts and actions. It is to rise above our base instincts and desires, and to act in ways that are wise, just, and virtuous. In every situation, we ask ourselves, what is the virtuous course of action? This question becomes our compass, guiding us through the complexities of life. We do not act out of self-interest or the desire for approval, but from a deep commitment to doing what is right. We seek to embody the four cardinal virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are not abstract ideals, but practical principles that inform our daily lives. They are the standards by which we measure our actions and the goals toward which we strive. Living in accordance with nature also means accepting the things we cannot change. The Stoics understood that much of life is beyond our control: the actions of others, the twists of fate, the inevitability of death. But they also recognized that we have complete control over our own minds and attitudes. As Epictetus taught, some things are in our control and some things are not. By focusing on what is under our control, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, we free ourselves from the frustration and despair that come from trying to change the unchangeable. This acceptance is not passive resignation. It is an active embrace of reality. It is the recognition that everything that happens is part of the natural order, and that even adversity has a role to play in our growth. As Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. By accepting the challenges that come our way, we transform them into opportunities for learning and growth. We become like the oak tree, whose roots grow deeper and stronger with each storm it endures. To live in accordance with nature is also to live with a sense of gratitude and reverence for the world around us. We recognize that the universe is not a random collection of atoms, but a harmonious and interconnected whole. We see the beauty and wisdom in the natural world, and we strive to emulate it in our own lives. We nurture a sense of wonder and amazement, knowing that we are part of something far greater than ourselves. As the Stoic philosopher Cleanthes wrote in his hymn to Zeus, "Lead me, O Zeus, and thou, O destiny, to wherever your decrees have assigned me. I follow willingly, and if I were to become unwilling, I would still have to follow." This is the attitude of the Stoic, a willingness to embrace our role in the grand scheme of things and to live with purpose and integrity. In practical terms, living in harmony with nature entails making decisions that reflect our understanding of the logos. It means acting with kindness and compassion, understanding that we are all members of the same human family. It means pursuing justice not out of a sense of responsibility, but because it is the natural manifestation of our rational nature. It implies cultivating temperance not as a kind of self-denial, but as a manner of aligning oneself with the natural order, and it involves fostering knowledge, not as an abstract ideal, but as a practical guide to leading a happy life. Ultimately, to live in accordance with nature is to become an instrument of the divine will. It is to acknowledge that we are not the writers of our own fate, but participants in a larger story. By aligning ourselves with the logos, we find our position in the cosmos and fulfill our ultimate potential. We become like the stars, which shine not for themselves, but for the benefit of all. This is the Stoic ideal. To live a life of virtue, in accordance with the natural order and in service to the larger good. The Discipline of Assent. At the center of Stoic practice lies a fundamental and frequently ignored discipline, the discipline of consent. This is the skill of deciding what we will and will not give our consent to, what we will allow to form our ideas, our emotions, and eventually, our life. It is a practice that takes continual vigilance, for it is here, in the domain of our judgments, that our freedom and power actually dwell. The Stoics understood that while we cannot govern the exterior world, we possess ultimate dominion over our inner world. The discipline of assent is the key to unlocking this sovereignty. Imagine your mind as a fortress, an inner citadel that stands unshaken amidst the chaos of the world. The walls of this fortress are not made of stone, but of reason and virtue. The gatekeeper is your faculty of judgment, and the discipline of consent is the process by which you select what may enter and what must be turned away. Every thought, every impression, every feeling that approaches the gates of your mind must be investigated. Is it true? Is it virtuous? Is it connected with your highest principles? These are the questions you must ask before granting your consent. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus emphasized the importance of this discipline when he said, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about events." In other words, it is not the external world that causes us suffering, but our own perceptions and interpretations of it. The discipline of assent teaches us to pause before accepting any impression as true. We do not allow ourselves to be swept away by the initial wave of emotion or the loudest voice in the room. Instead, we step back, observe, and analyze. We question ourselves. Is this thought accurate? Is this emotion justified? Is this judgment consistent with reason and virtue? Only then do we determine whether to grant our assent. This practice is not easy. It takes constant attention and steadfast discipline. We live in a society that is always clamoring for our attention, bombarding us with stimuli designed to generate rapid reactions. Social media, news cycles, and the opinions of others all strive to influence our thoughts and emotions. But the Stoic does not bow to these external circumstances. Like the Stoic heroes of Roman times, figures such as Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Cato, we stand unwavering in our dedication to reason and virtue. We are not swayed by externals, not compelled by others' opinions, not forced by our emotions. We are the lords of our minds, the guardians of our thoughts, and the stewards of our emotions. The efficacy of the discipline of consent rests in its simplicity. It is the power to say yes or no, to assent or to deny. This may seem like a small thing, but it is the foundation of all Stoic practice. Every time we choose to withhold our agreement from a negative thought or feeling, we fortify our inner citadel. Every time we provide our agreement to a virtuous thought or action, we link ourselves more closely with the Logos, the rational force that rules the universe. Over time, this exercise transforms us. We become less reactive and more purposeful. We get better control over our minds and emotions. We learn to respond to life's obstacles with calm and clarity, rather than getting carried away by the storms of emotion. Consider the example of anger. When someone wrongs us, our first inclination may be to react with rage. But the Stoic does not offer immediate acquiescence to this emotion. Instead, they halt and reflect. They ask themselves, is this rage justified? Will it serve a purpose? Is it linked with virtue? Often they will find that the answer is no. Anger, while natural, is rarely productive. It clouds our judgment and drives us away from reason and ethics. By withholding our assent from rage, we prevent it from taking root in our thinking. We remain calm and composed, able to respond to the situation with knowledge and clarity. The discipline of acquiescence also applies to our desires and worries. We live in a world that continuously tempts us with the promise of pleasure and the danger of misery. But the Stoic does not offer immediate acquiescence to these desires. They know that pleasure and pain are external entities, neither good nor bad in themselves. What counts is how we respond to them. By withholding our acquiescence from want and fear, we release ourselves from their grip. We learn to desire only what is virtuous and to fear only what is actually bad. In this way, we acquire a state of inner independence and peace. This discipline is not about concealing our feelings or rejecting our humanity. It is about understanding and transcending them. The Stoic does not attempt to become emotionless, but to guarantee that their emotions are matched with reason and morality. They recognize that emotions are natural and inescapable, but they also understand that they have the freedom to choose how they respond to them. This is the essence of the discipline of assent, the power to choose what we will and will not allow to influence our inner environment. The discipline of acquiescence is a lifelong exercise, one that requires ongoing vigilance and unflinching commitment. But the advantages are tremendous. By learning this practice, we gain control over our brains and emotions. We become less reactive and more purposeful in our activities. We learn to respond to life's obstacles with calm and clarity, rather than getting carried away by the storms of emotion. The hero's acceptance. In the big stage of life, where fate plays the part of both benefactor and enemy, we are asked to embody the spirit of the hero. This is not the hero of myth, adorned with glory and untouched by suffering, but the Stoic hero, one who accepts the blows of fate with unyielding resolve and quiet dignity. The Stoic hero does not flee from difficulty, nor does they seek it out. Instead, they meet pain and misfortune head-on, not as enemies to be defeated, but as opportunities to prove their virtue and demonstrate their worth. This is the essence of the hero's acceptance, the unwavering embrace of whatever life brings, with the knowledge that every challenge is a test of character and a chance to rise. The Stoics understood that life is inherently unpredictable. Fortune, or fortuna as the ancients called her, is capricious and indifferent. She bestows her gifts and her punishments without regard for merit or justice. To the Stoic, this is not a cause for despair, but a call to arms. We are soldiers of fortune, embattled warriors standing firm against the slings and arrows of outrageous fate. Like the Roman legionaries who marched into war with discipline and courage, we meet life's hardships with the same unshakable commitment. We do not complain, we do not falter, we do not break, we endure. This is not a passive endurance, but an active and conscious acceptance. The Stoic hero does not merely tolerate suffering, they transform it into an opportunity for growth. They understand that pain and misfortune are not evils in themselves, but neutral events that take on meaning through our response to them. As Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we face are not barriers to our progress, but the very means by which we achieve it. By accepting and embracing these obstacles, we develop ourselves into stronger, wiser, and more ethical beings. Consider the example of Job, the biblical figure whose story has resonated across centuries as a testament to the power of endurance. Job was a man who lost everything, his riches, his health, and his family, yet he refused to curse his destiny. Instead, he accepted his suffering with a quiet dignity that has inspired countless generations. The Stoic hero embodies this same spirit. They do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" They see suffering not as a punishment, but as a teacher. And in this acceptance, they discover a great feeling of serenity. Marcus Aurelius himself was no stranger to suffering. As the emperor of Rome, he faced innumerable challenges: political intrigue, military conflicts, personal sorrow. Yet he tackled each difficulty with the same stoic resolve. In his Meditations, he stated, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the essence of the hero's acceptance. The recognition that our power rests not in managing the outward world, but in dominating our interior response to it. By accepting what we cannot change, we free ourselves from the frustration and despair that come from resisting the inevitable. But acceptance does not mean resignation. The Stoic hero does not give up or surrender. They rise to the moment. They exercise mental toughness, cultivating virtues such as courage, resilience, and patience. They understand that every obstacle is an opportunity to demonstrate their worth. Like a blacksmith tempering steel in the furnace, they use adversity to enhance their character. They endure their travails with the serene tenacity of a warrior, knowing that each struggle gets them closer to their ultimate potential. This acceptance is not without its obstacles. The Stoic hero is not immune to doubt or dread. They too feel the sting of anguish and the weight of misfortune, but they do not allow these feelings to master them. Instead, they use them as fuel for their growth. They recognize that suffering is a natural part of life, and that it is through suffering that we develop the virtues that define us. As Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." By embracing our struggles, we become stronger, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. The hero's acceptance is also a form of rebellion. a quiet but powerful defiance of the chaos and injustice of the world. By accepting our fate with grace and dignity, we assert our autonomy and our humanity. We refuse to be victims of circumstance, choosing instead to be masters of our own destiny. This is the ultimate act of courage, to face life's adversities with an open heart and an unshakable resolve, knowing that we are defined not by what happens to us, but by how we respond. The silent laughter. There is a laughing that rises above the enormous fabric of life, where the strands of happiness and grief, victory and tragedy, are entwined in a way that is inexplicable to us. It is not the empty chuckle of disinterest, nor is it the chuckling of disdain or mockery. It is the laughing of the Stoic, a profound, wise, and simple laughter that emanates from the reservoir of wisdom and acceptance. This is the laconic laughter, a serene smile at the chaotic nature of our own thoughts, a soft giggle at the vicissitudes of life, and a quiet satisfaction at the foolishness of it all. It is the chuckling of people who have chosen to accept the world with humor and grace after seeing it for what it is. Because such laughter is the product of cruelty and folly, the Stoic does not laugh at the misfortunes of others. Rather, we chuckle at the silliness of life itself, the unpredictable turns, the accidental happenings that mold our lives, and the cosmic joke that appears to lie at the center of it all. We chuckle at how luck can knock us down after bringing us up, and how our own ideas can be either our best friends or our fiercest opponents. We laugh because we understand, not because we don't care. We find the world wonderfully humorous when we observe it in all its beauty and confusion. This laughter is an affirmation of life, rather than its rejection. It accepts that life is both profound and ludicrous, tragic and amusing. Like the ancient philosophers before us, the Stoic sage realizes that we are all actors in a vast drama, and that the world is a stage. We take our duties extremely seriously and are committed to them, but we also appreciate how ludicrous they are. In the words of the Roman Stoic Seneca, the wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, for he has always endeavored to rely chiefly upon himself and to derive all joy from himself. We chuckle because of this independence and inner contentment. Resilience can also be indicated by the laconic laugh. It is a means of declaring our independence in the face of absurdity and of resisting the volatility and unpredictability of life. We deprive fate of its ability to annoy us when we laugh at its whims. We choose to be masters of our own imaginations rather than victims of circumstance. We are shielded from the whims and arrows of crazy luck by this laughing. It serves as a reminder that we always have a choice in how we react to events. Taking the ancient Spartans as an example, the name laconic comes from them. The Spartans, who were renowned for their wit and conciseness, handled life's obstacles with a dry sense of humor and stoic resolve. In response to Philip of Macedon's promise to invade Sparta, he wrote, "If I enter Laconia, I will raze Sparta to the ground." All the Spartans could say in response was, "if." In addition to being a show of bravery, this succinct reply subtly made fun of Philip's conceit. In other words, we see your threats for what they are and we are not afraid. Much of the Stoic laughing is the same, a silent rejection of the follies of life and an unwillingness to be intimidated by its difficulties. However, the laconic laugh is a source of joy, as well as a defense mechanism. It is the giggle of the sage, the philosopher, who finds humor in life's drama. We laugh out of acceptance and understanding rather than scorn or contempt. We view the world for what it is, broken and unpredictable, and it is precisely because of these defects that we find it beautiful. According to Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. We may modify how we experience the world by adopting a different viewpoint and observing it with acceptance and humor. Additionally, this laughter is a technique of building a spiritual connection. The Stoics held that the logos, a rational principle that penetrates everything, regulates the universe. According to this perspective, even life's oddities and unpredictability are a part of a greater divine order. We are appreciating the universe's perfection, rather than making fun of it when we chuckle at the absurdity of existence. We take delight in the awareness that even the most unpredictable and chaotic occurrences are a part of a larger totality. Everything harmonizes with me, which is harmonious to thee, O universe, as Marcus Aurelius expressed it. Nothing is too early or too late for me. Everything is in due time for you. Our laughing emanates from this harmony. Our forebears, who came before us and met life's hardships with the same stoic courage and dry humor, are likewise honored with the laconic laughter. They also realize the silliness of life and manage to find laughter amid misfortune. We join them in an everlasting tradition of resiliency and knowledge when we laugh. By accepting life with the same fortitude and sense of humor that they did, we pay honor to their memories. The craft of perception. We come across a variety of circumstances in a single day that can make us feel uneasy, frustrated, or even angry. A disagreeable remark from a coworker could hurt, a delayed train could throw off our carefully thought-out schedule, and an unforeseen rainfall could leave us uncomfortable and damp. When we take these moments at their value, they frequently seem like annoyances, unwelcome disturbances of our routine. But if we change our viewpoint, we might see them as chances for development rather than as challenges. There are countless opportunities to exercise patience, fortitude, and wisdom in life, despite its unpredictable nature. A scathing remark from a colleague is not just an insult to our pride. It also tests our capacity for composure and empathy. Instead of being a cause of aggravation, a train delay acts as a stimulus to exercise tolerance and flexibility. Though uncomfortable, even an unexpected downpour can remind us of the transience of misery and the beauty of letting go of things beyond our control. We can gain a deep understanding of this way of thinking from the words of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher. You can discard most troubles that are in your mind by transforming them into something nobler. The control of desire. If desire is allowed to run amok, it can lead to unending pain. The more we yearn for something that is just out of reach, the more we become enslaved by our own desires. We can spend our days seeking money, reputation, or power if we are not careful, thinking that these tangible gains will pleasure us. The underlying reality, however, is that these naturally intense cravings frequently leave us feeling empty and unfulfilled. We find ourselves craving more and more as we acquire more. Therefore, managing our impulses and bringing them into line with morality is the road to true contentment rather than gaining more. We recognize that wanting worldly goods, approval from others, or ephemeral pleasures only leads in a restless mind. Rather, we build a disciplined approach to desire, one that puts inner tranquility, wisdom, and self-control above a flimsy wealth. We remind ourselves that although money can buy us comfort, it cannot buy us happiness. Notoriety can garner attention, but it doesn't guarantee harmony. Influence may come from power, but wisdom does not. We expose ourselves to disappointment when we look to these transient things for fulfillment, but we discover a more durable and substantial form of wealth when we direct our aspirations towards growing as humans, acquiring knowledge, and practicing virtue. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, cautions us against the perils of excessive desire when he says, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." A person who is never satisfied regardless of how much they own lives in a perpetual state of deprivation. True poverty is not defined by the lack of tangible belongings, but rather by the existence of unbridled longing. However, true abundance is experienced by those who have learned to control their cravings, find happiness in what they have, and seek only what is essential and just. So we decide to choose wisdom instead of wealth, peace instead of luxury, and self-mastery instead of power. We can break free from the bonds of unending want and welcome a life of contentment, tranquility, and genuine prosperity by controlling our desires. The daily review. We withdraw into seclusion when night falls and the outside world becomes silent, savoring the silence that promotes in-depth thought. All of the day's victories and setbacks are over, but the lessons are still valid. Now is the moment to look inward, to reflect honestly and impartially, to analyze not just what we have done but also how we have done it. Did we conduct according to virtue? Were we wise and brave enough to confront our trials, or did we falter when things became tough? Did we acquire self-mastery, even if only slightly? This nightly review is a practice of real self-examination rather than self-criticism. We don't take undue delight in our triumphs or strive to punish ourselves for our blunders. Rather, we aim for clarity, to identify the areas in which we achieved our ideals and the ones in which we did not, to properly evaluate both our strengths and our failings. We can only have the discipline to mature, build our character, and pursue self-improvement more consciously if we have this understanding. We utilize journaling to help us order our ideas and allow our reflections evolve on paper. Writing gives us with a mirror, allowing us to more objectively observe our inner workings. We assess our feelings, analyzing them to understand their sources and implications. What got us angry? What made us happy? What fears lurked beneath the surface of our day? By studying these sentiments, we can better comprehend our own ideas and develop the wisdom and self-control essential to traverse our inner world. However, contemplation comprises more than simply analysis. It also involves acceptance and renewal. Knowing that development is always possible but perfection is unrealistic, we forgive ourselves for our flaws. We decide to do better tomorrow and remove the weight of regret. To make sure we stay traveling in the correct direction, every day is an opportunity to advance and every night is an opportunity to concentrate. This is our sacred nighttime habit, which supports our development and fortifies our resolve to live a life that is meaningful. We don't stare to the future with anxiety, or linger on the past with grief amid the silence of the evening. Rather, we anchor ourselves in the here and now and use the insight of reflection to mold ourselves into the persons we hope to be. And so we reach the end of our trip, a journey not outward but inward. A journey that has shown us that the greatest obstacles in life are not the ones the world throws at us, but the ones we make within ourselves. Through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, we've learned that real freedom lies not in controlling the external world, but in mastering our inner world. We've found the power of the inner observer, the discipline of assent, the hero's acceptance, and the art of perception. We've seen how controlling our desires and reflecting daily can change our lives. This is not just philosophy, it's a way of life. A call to arms for anyone willing to take care of their mind, to turn their struggles into strength, and to live with unshakable serenity in the chaos of life. The Stoic path is not easy, but it is deeply rewarding. It asks us to be heroes in our own stories, to face adversity with bravery, and to find joy in the simple act of living virtuously. So as you go forward, remember this: you are the author of your thoughts, the sculptor of your emotions, and the master of your fate. The world may be unpredictable, but your inner citadel stays unshaken. Embrace the Stoic way, and you'll find that every challenge is an opportunity, every setback a stepping stone, and every moment a chance to live with purpose and ethics. Thank you for joining me on this trip. If this word resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's continue exploring the tools and knowledge that help us become the best versions of ourselves. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and live with the quiet power of a Stoic. This is not just philosophy, this is your call to arms. Let's begin.